button, share, comment, do what you got to do. Help us run it up, everybody. Share it out to your Facebook groups. Also, if you wish to get early access and have other perks and just chill out and hang out and talk RC sometimes, consider becoming a YouTube member or an RC patron. The price of a cup of coffee per month, you can support the podcast. And, some of those funds will go to, Max's haircut fund. We're going to see how much it's going to take to get Max to get a haircut with that money. With that said, also, I want to say a big shout out to these companies because without them, none of this is possible advertising on this podcast. They are J Concepts, High Tech RC, Sidewinder Fuel, BeachRC.com, Invisible Speed, Techno RC, Clinic RC, ML Toys, Elite RC Productions, One Up Racing, Mayako, A-Main RC, SMC Racing Batteries, Racecraft USA, and Get Shit Done Coffee. Thank you all for the support. We have links for them in the written description of the podcast. Some, you save some money. Some, we got a little bit of money. Some, just let them know that you heard about them from the No Name RC podcast and Lefty sent you. It helps us out. Big shout out to our NNRC drivers. They are David Runnerfolk, Robert Badier, Alexander Hagberg, Mason Fuller, Pecco Evening, Una Hotnan, and maybe Davey Bada. We haven't confirmed that. You know what? We gotta get a stock driver in our lineup. Who should we get as a NNRC stock driver? Let me know in the comments down below. So, as many of you guys have gotten to know Paul Thacker in the industry, he is one of our disabled racers. He's one of our disabled racers that's in a wheelchair, and he races a lot on the West Coast. He's been coming over to race time events. I got to meet him at a race time event. Awesome dude. I sat off with Paul back in July of 2025. We just sat down and had a conversation. And prior to that, he gave me a link to go watch a documentary that was made about, not just about him, but the snow machine industry in Alaska, because Paul comes from Alaska. Snow machine, snowmobile. They call it a snow machine. Some call it a snowmobile. Because Paul was very heavily involved in this era, this making snow machine, like he's done XGames, he's done snowcross, freestyle, but what he was really known for was long jumps. And we talk about this. Obviously, he is disabled. He was disabled in an accident jumping snowmobiles. We talk about that. We talk about his found love for RC, his charitable foundation that he is made with working with veterans, because he's always traveling with different obviously he needs some help at these races, so he has some friends that travel with him, and getting vets into RC and fishing and stuff like that. And it was a great chat with Paul. I think he's an awesome dude. I think we need more people like this. He has very close ties with big sponsors from his snowmobile days, and it was just a great chat talking about those days and him still liking RC, and then his transition into RC and the enjoyment he gets from RC now and racing. So thank you, Paul Thacker, for your time. I know this took some time to come up, but he said, Lefty, release this when it's a slow month, just put it out. And we kind of recorded it knowing that it might come. It's probably going to be a while before it comes out. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I think Paul's awesome in what he's done. And we need more people like this in RC and doing cool things in RC. And I hope you guys like it. Paul Thacker, Brought to you by J Concepts. Joining me in the virtual studio today is a man who has had a very Extreme past. That's the way I would use it. And I got to meet him at I met you at AMS a couple years ago. That's where it was. Was it
It was
last year? Or
last year's AMS and then briefly at DNC the year we were under the little track.
that's right. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I'm going to DNC again next year, I think, my
You should.
return. I love the race, trust me. But I wanna welcome Snow Machine, Snowmobile, X Games, Extreme Athlete, Mr. Paul Thacker, and RC enthusiast, RC racer, dude. You be racing a lot.
Yeah, man. I have this have I don't have any hobbies. I just have things that I fall in love with and try to become a professional at apparently. So
That's right, and you're all the way up in Alaska, so very far from where I am, like, completely different place.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
do you know, like, all them guys that race up there, like Donald
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah, we club raced last night and Dennis and
Dennis?
Donald and
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I see those guys pop up in the comment sections on streams and videos all the time. So yeah. Yeah, Donald had a him and I both had pretty rough club night. He's just got his first 8 scale nitro car, so he was struggling a bit last night, but we'll get him up to speed.
How many guys do you get up there, for a club race? How many races up there in Alaska?
Uh we kind of have been kind of a bit of a lull the last season, but this year we're getting 40 cars, 40 or 40 entrants, 40, somewhere in that decent turnout. Yeah, in that 3 years ago we were getting like 60, 70, and it's
Mhm.
kind of faded off a little bit. Now it's kind of in the how RC goes. It's like waxes and wanes, ups and downs. So we're on the upswing. So
Now, during the winter, do you do indoor racing there, or what do you guys do?
yeah, we have been. So we rent a big banquet room at a one of the convention centers, but actually we've got now just about 40 minutes, half an hour north of town in Wasilla. One of the guys that races with us is currently just putting almost the finishing touches on a new indoor full size carpet track with hobby shop. So we're gonna have a legit place for the first time. Dude, you have no idea. I'm so stoked to be able to just like pack my stuff up and go practice. Because when
Mhm.
you just get to go race, you get to practice a little before you race, and that's it. But just to go be able to go drive, and that'll be super fun. Looking to it. So
Yeah,
um,
I love carpet racing. Good stuff to do in a cold winter, which I'm sure you get plenty of up there in Alaska.
for
Uh,
sure.
so I have a question. Was you born and raised in Alaska?
Yep, born and raised. I was born in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is about 5 hours north of where I currently live in Anchorage. And then
Mm.
my parents actually bought an air taxi service, so they flew people out hunting and fishing with float planes when I was like 6. So we moved to Willow, which is about an hour and a half north of here, and that's pretty much where I grew up. Went to elementary school, high school, and then moved to Anchorage after when I came back after college.
I gotta ask, like, what type of life does one have in Alaska growing up?
So if you like to do anything outdoors, it's amazing. I grew up fishing and riding sleds in the wintertime and, was an athlete. So obviously I played, I wrestled and played basketball and then later on played hockey. So it was and a pretty, small, close knit communities, which is a lot family oriented. So it was awesome, man. We still have the house that I grew up in on the lake in the valley, so we go up there pretty much every weekend in the summer for sure, and then about, a couple times a month in the wintertime. And it's just it's an amazing I I mean, I've been a lot of places in the world, and you'd be hard pressed to find any cooler place to grow up than in Alaska.
I'd like to visit one day. Not in the
You
winter,
should.
not in the winter, but
Yeah.
I definitely like to come up there and see it during the summer. It looks beautiful up there. But I
I
mean,
can
it
tell
is a winter
I
haven too.
it is, yeah, if you like stuff in the anything any snow sports, skiing, snow I mean, there's a million things you can do in the winter, it's just the days get pretty short in the wintertime, and they're really long in the summertime, so,
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, man, we'll get that carpet track up and running, and maybe we'll try and figure out a way to have a race up here and have you come call it.
That'd be cool. That'd be
Yeah.
cool. The most north I've been is High Level, Alberta, and
Yeah.
it was summertime, and I couldn't believe it was daytime at 2 a.m.
Yeah, so we're on the downswing now. The days are getting shorter, but the solstice is the 19th or 20th of June, and we get like it gets dusk, but it doesn't get dark.
Mhm.
Like the sun goes down, but it never actually gets dark. Like 4th of July, you never fire off fireworks because you can't see them because it's still light out. So we would
Yeah, that's
do our
crazy.
fireworks on New Year's. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, so you sent me over a very interesting documentary to watch yesterday. It was called The Winter Project, I think it was called,
Yep.
and that's when I kinda it was I'm glad you sent it because I learned so much about, what you do what you done and what you became famous for, in the snowmobile or snow machine industry. And also, I found out that you was a avid hockey player, and I asked you about this prior to this, and you said that was your passion. That's what you really wanted to chase. So I guess we'll start there with hockey. We're gonna get into RC because I know you raced in the '80s and all that stuff, but I kind of want to get your background on all this type of stuff.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, I was born and raised up here, and I, you know, growing up in the valley, or in Willow, I guess I should say. Kind of before you could drive a car, your mode of transportation was a snow machine. So I did a ton of that as a kid. And then as I got, in my early teens, and I was always an athlete, but I never really played hockey. And then when I went into high school, my high school didn't have a hockey team yet. So I kind of started late, but we had to get 10 people to sign up and we were going to start a hockey team. Well, I could only get 9 as a freshman. So the next year I started earlier and I got like 15 people to sign up and we started a hockey team at my high school. Or and so that was I was 16 the first time I ever really played organized hockey. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I I have this, like I mentioned earlier, I don't really have hobbies. I have things that I just when I like something and decide I'm going to do it, it's like 100% or nothing. And so I just lived and breathed hockey from that point forward. I mean, I would throw on Wayne Gretzky's VHS video at night, and I'd fall asleep watching it. Like I just became a sponge, and I watch, learn, and anyway, so I picked up hockey really quickly, um, and in fact, by senior year, I ended up being uh, all conference in the small schools in the state, and then I ended up going and playing junior hockey for a couple years, and then I went and played um, college hockey in Minnesota, all with only have been playing hockey for like 5 or 6 years. So I picked it up and became proficient at it really fast. So I graduated college in '99, and then I came back to Alaska and tried out for the basically it was the West Coast League at the time, which is like the minors, and I ended up skated there for that part of that season and then part of the next season, and then I basically quit hockey after like 7 or 8 years for a girl, which yeah. Anyway, that's a story over cocktails for sure. Um, I mean, we've all done dumb shit for women, right?
That's the truth.
And and anyway, so yeah, I basically had this thing that had just consumed me, and I loved doing, and I was like all I ever thought about. And one day I just stopped doing it. So from that point forward, I was like not spending my time or very things were going sideways. Like I was drinking too much and I was getting in fights at the bar and just not it wasn't good. So my roommate at the time and I decided we were going to buy a couple of snow machines and just going to go, get the girls out on the weekend and nothing crazy. Not I don't need to race. I'm just going to go ride sleds and have a little bit of fun. Well, that lasted about 2 weeks before I signed up for my first race. And that start So as soon as I raced, it was the whole new hockey was a thing of the past, and I had now found something new that I was gonna, put all of my time and energy into. So, eh, eh, yeah, I mean, it was just like it consumed me. All I wanted to do was watch, snow machine videos and figure out how to tune and how to do shocks and how to, jump, all the things that I had never really done, at least at that level before. So, yeah, I started racing snowcross. I did that first year, I did one or two races, and then the next season, I did a um, the full circuit in Alaska, and won. I think I won both of the state championships that year, and then the next season, I ended up racing. I went outside actually and raced on the national circuit, at the in the semi-pro level, which wasn't quite obviously, the I was not pro at that point. So then I did that, came home, and then the fourth season of snowcross, I actually raced. I raced as a privateer professional snowcrosser on the national circuit.
Where did
And
the national circuit take you?
so all over the Midwest, we went, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana. We raced. We went out to the East Coast, New York. Yeah, it was I think 10 or 12 races. I actually the first year I had, one of the teams would just transport my sled, and then I would, show up and wrench on it myself or have somebody come with and help. And yeah, that was a pretty wild time because I was let me back up a little bit. So when I decided I was going to start racing snow machines at the same time and not do hockey anymore, I needed a job. So I was actually in an adult league after an adult league hockey game, pickup game. These guys were talking about how they worked at this finance institution and they needed to hire some employees, and all they needed was a college degree and they would get hired. And I was like, well, shit, I have a college degree. Anyway, so I interviewed, and I got the job, and that's what started my career path in working for Wells Fargo Financial. So I started this career. I didn't know at the time it was a career. It was just the sled stuff was supposed to be fun, and then I had this parallel career that I started with Wells Fargo Financial. So while I'm doing the sled stuff, I'm also, working my way up from entry level to assistant manager to after I think 2.5 years was a manager of my own store, and then so now I'm like going flying down on the weekend to race snowcross and then coming back to Alaska and working at Wells Fargo all week.
How old are you in this time? In your early 20s?
So let's see, I would have been, yeah, 25, 26, yeah, mid 20s. Yeah.
So I remember in the video in the documentary, I'll put the link for it in the written description. When you find like you showed up in the beginning of the documentary, and then they're like, "Yeah, this guy Paul Thacker shows up in his bank uniform," and you had the chopped, you had
Oh,
the
yes.
side there,
Yeah.
yes, and you had there's like 90 shade, I guess early 2000 shades on, and he
Yeah.
was just in a not a suit and tie, but dress shirt and his dress pants, and
Right.
showing up to do some job to send it with your snowmobile
Yeah.
snow machine. So that was pretty interesting to see that, and that's when I was like, "Okay, this is the part I'm interested in to find out your story." So you did the snowcross league. Was that something that you continuously did through your career? And when did it kind of transition over to the freestyle stuff that I kind of watched yesterday?
So I was I loved the racing aspect. Like that was I really enjoyed it. But I was a little bit older. Most of the, snowcross guys were, late teens, early 20s. Um so I raced so I did 1 year as a privateer, and then the I think I raced 4 years down in on the national circuit, and I had a race team my last year. and it was just really hard to get support. I was, it's expensive, flying down, paying for it yourself, and um, so I actually was, I was, I wasn't necessarily not going to race anymore, but I was just like, oh, I'll just, race in Alaska, and um, anyway, I there was at the time they had these sled necks and turning in hardcore videos, and we watched them all the time. They were super cool, and that was like there was no social media, so like to get your name out as an athlete, you had to, do something cool and crazy and get in these videos. That was really the only way you could, grow your brand, so to speak. So I had a buddy of mine that built the local snow crosses in Alaska here in town, and he called me up and asked me. He's like, "Hey man, do you think this sled can jump this far? I built this crazy jump in the parking lot, and it was like jumping from where the parking lot was. He built this ramp in a berm, and then there was like a big death gap, and then you'd land onto the snow cross track." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm on my way home. I'll stop and check it out." Well, by the time I got there, the Landry twins, who filmed Turning in Hardcore for years, they uh they were there, and a couple of the local freestyle guys that had been doing backcountry movies and such were there, and they were looking at this jump and they were like, "Man, I don't know, it's pretty far and pretty scary, and I'm not sure if it's going to work." And I looked at it, and the part about the snowcross and all of it that I loved from day one was the jumping part. It was like, make the double that with a braking bump in the corner into a triple, or go a little bit bigger than anybody else was willing to go. I really enjoyed that part and was good at that part. Like there's no gears on a snow machine, so it's all mind speed. Like you just have to know and feel how fast you need to go to make, the landing. So I took one look at this jump and I was like, yeah, no, I think we can do it. So I unloaded. I had sleds in my trailer with. I unloaded my sled, rolled over it once, and then just hit it a whole bunch of times. And the film guys were like, okay, we want to get this guy in the mountains. So they were like, dude, wait, we got to get you in the mountains. So that was like a week later. Um, that was probably one of the days I showed up in my shirt and tie, and they had jumps already built that guys were, working on. And so I just showed up, and like 3 hours later, we had a whole segment for my first spot in a video. And now all of a sudden I'm racing, but now my name's starting to, get out there and be more than just a snow cross racer. And they had this jump that they were calling the world record jump. And guys were, you'd hit this jump and there was a flat, and then you could just float down the hill and basically go as far as your testicular fortitude would let you go. And anyway, so I hit, guys were crashing a lot, and I hit this jump a bunch of times and went, you know, big and bigger than anybody else had gone at that particular moment. And then that kind of a whole new caveat to what I was doing was like, oh man, you're like world record jumps was a that was a big thing at the time on motocross side with Robbie Madison and Ryan Capes. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Those guys were jumping football fields or pretty near. So we do this segment, and then I'm like, man, we need to do this for real, like a real life flat ground world record Guinness Book type jump. The next season we actually is when we did a flat ground world record distance jump in Minnesota, and that we did it at a small airport in Hill City, Minnesota, and I jumped, I don't know, 250 feet, give or take, and that was like that put me on the map. That was the world record distance jump. Now, it was part of Sled Next Videos, which was a bigger brand and all documented and legit. And then from that point forward, it was like I didn't need to race snowcross anymore because I had a whole new avenue of my passion.
Yeah, I remember they said, yeah, Paul Thacker, this guy sends it all the time. Like if it's any, they said you were so nonchalant about it. Like you just come and just go and hit it, like that everybody else would be scared to do, and you'd be like, oh, I can do that. And I was like, I saw that. I saw some of these jumps, and I was like, "These guys are nuts. These guys are insane." And their snowmobiles are big, like, they're not, uh, small. I meant to ask, do they have brakes and stuff like that? Like,
Oh
how do
yeah,
you control them in the air and all that type of stuff like
yeah,
motocross?
yeah, yeah. So it's a centrifugal clutch. So there's a belt. So as the RPMs span up, it pinches the belt, and that's what makes it go. But yeah, it's got a disc brake, and so there's no gears. Um, it's like you kind of think about it like more like a automatic transmission in your car versus a motocross bike is a a manual.
But, like
So,
the same characteristics in the air, like if you hit the
yep,
brake, go down, if you
yep,
accelerate, it
yep,
goes up.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, all that stuff is the same. It's not you can't quite manipulate it as much
Mhm.
as because it weighs 500 pounds.
Yes.
My Ken Block, um, back when I first met him years ago and was trying to get him to ride snowmobiles, he's like, I don't want to ride that thing. It's like riding a couch. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it's like. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
they.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say, but yeah, the manipulation you can do in the air with the brake and gas is very similar. Yeah.
So, was you, like, into doing all the tricks, or was you just into, like, sanding it?
So not I didn't really. I mean, I could do some tricks for fun, but I wasn't
Mhm.
a freestyler by any means. I had no real time on doing any kind of freestyle on ramps. So basically, we were doing you know once a year, once every other year, we would do a world record jump and do a big. That's about the same time as when I got signed on with Monster, which would have been 2005 or 2006. Um, and I started getting some sponsors that were paying. So mind you, all this time I'm doing this, I'm still working at Wells Fargo Financial. And
Oh, okay.
now I'm the district manager for Alaska. So I oversee. I had like, I don't know, 85 employees. I oversaw all 7 branches in the state. My boss was in Washington. So I'm like traveling and doing snow machine stuff, and I have a team that I'm, you know, working with, or has a team working with me at home. So I have these 2 very careers that are just the Wells Fargo thing was really lucrative, and
Really?
you got benefits. I'm making well into 6 figures. You know, really great retirement program. And then I've got the sled stuff, which is what I'm loving to do. But obviously, at this point, I'm not, making a little bit of money, but not a ton by any means, not enough to live on.
Mhm.
And I'm still paying to travel and stuff like this. But it's what I'm passionate about, what I want to do. Anyway, so I guess it would have been 2008, somewhere in that time frame, when we'd done a couple world record jumps and things were going well. I'm starting to make a little more money now. People are like, they want me to come and like do signings at dealers and stuff like that. Just be uh, just be a face at their event, or announce an event, or things like that. Um, and things are going really well on the Wells Fargo side. We're crushing it and hitting profit goals, and everything's going really well. And I kind of started to feel that the sled stuff it wasn't really fair to my group at home here in Alaska for Wells Fargo Financial. So I got to the point where it was just taking away too much. Like I would be gone and they needed stuff and I couldn't do it, or I'd be delayed. And anyway, so I was going to actually quit the snowmobile stuff. And because it was just taking away too much, I was gone all the time, and it wasn't fair. I didn't think it was fair. And that's when John Keegan from Slednex, who is the clothing brand, video brand, called me up and he's like, "Hey, uh, Bob Brown, who is a Hollywood stuntman at the time, is now a Hollywood producer, and Vin Diesel want you and Chris Brandt to come to Sweden and be Vin Diesel's stunt double for this new movie they're filming." And I was
Triple
like,
X.
It was Babylon AD.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Check it out. When you get a chance, check out Babylon AD. The movie's terrible, but the snowmobile scene is really good. Yeah,
What was
it
the
was like
snowboarding scene in Triple X,
true.
if
That's
I
right.
remember
Yeah, yeah,
correctly.
yeah. And anyway, so I got the details, and I was gonna have to be gone a month, and I was just like, "There's no way." Like, I can't do it. Like, I'm not gonna be able to go. And so I just that's like did some pretty serious soul searching. Was like, man, just such an incredible opportunity. Like, I will kick myself forever if I don't do this. But at the same time, I was like, man, I've got such a good gig going. It's really hard to. So we actually had a big all-star leadership conference in Florida like that next weekend. And um, after one of the meetings, my boss was actually has now retired to Alaska. He was in Washington at the time, but he had worked and managed Alaska for many years before I started or before I took it over. Anyway, so we're sitting at this conference after, and I asked Mark if he could hang back a minute. I wanted to chat with him about something, and basically, I kind of just laid it out for him. It was like, man, this is this opportunity I have. What do I do? And he looked at me and he goes, "You're crazy not to do it," which was like I kind of taken aback by it because most bosses in that position would be like, well, yeah, that's you've got this great job. It's kind of irresponsible to go chase this thing when you don't know how it's going to work out. And he's like, man, the Wells Fargo stuff will be here anytime you want to come back. The door's open. He's like, you have to give it a shot. So yeah, so I did. I basically put my 2 weeks in right then and was like, I'm going. And yeah, I think that was 2007, 2008. So yeah, that's the last time I worked a 9 to 5 job was in 2008.
Really? So how was Sweden? I know, I
Oh,
have some friends from Sweden and he used to tell me about snowmobile drag racing, and he used to tell me, "Yeah, you can drive these things across water." I didn't believe him. I mean, look, I'm from an island, dude. We don't have any
yeah.
snow, right? So, I would assume that it's probably similar over there or to some extent?
Very. So I had, obviously I'd experienced some pretty big. We'd had some big world record events in Minnesota before that point, and had like, 12, 15,000 people at these venues. Um, and that I thought that was pretty cool. That was like rock star, but nothing compared to how Sweden was. And we were up way up north in Kiruna, little ski town just on the border with Norway, and it was insane, man. So we would, on the weekends, this little town or this little hotel with the bar would just go. It was packed, crazy packed with skiers, and people would ask, because people are recognizing who you are from the snow machine, and taking pictures and signing autographs and stuff, and then, this young lady was asking, she's like, "What are you like asking what I'm doing there?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're here filming a movie with with Vin Diesel." And she was like, shook her head. She's like, I not know who that is." And I was like, "Vin Diesel, you never?" She had no idea who Vin Diesel was. And I was like, "We're here with Slednex." And she's like, "Slednex?" Knew exactly who that was.
Really?
Had no idea who Vin Diesel was. Anyway, she was super friendly after that, which was great for me, but that's an entirely we're gonna keep it PG. Anyway, um, I it was wild. We were like full on like signing autographs on arms and other body parts, and it was like it was a impressive, a really wild, eye-opening thing for me. Like we were true. It was the first time I really felt like we rock star status, if that, you know what I mean? It was just, yeah, it was pretty crazy. The Swedish folks are especially up north where they ride, and now a lot of those guys are like really big social media followings, have their sponsors doing freestyle all over the world. At the time, there wasn't many. There was just a couple, and anyway, so yeah, it was a big deal to have us up there. it was really, really a lot of fun.
So you're doing a movie, you do the movie. What happens after that? What comes next for you?
Well, so we were there for almost a month, and I made more money in those 3.5 weeks than I made the entire year previous at Wells Fargo.
No way.
So the first thing I did when I got home was I went down. I was looking for a second car because I had a big Ford F-250 with a 10-inch lift and big, big tires, and was not very practical driving around town. So I was going to try to find something smaller. I ended up at the Mercedes dealer and bought an SL 500 convertible, which was kind of my like fuck you to everybody that was like, oh, it's never gonna work. You'll be back in a month. You know what I mean? All the naysayers that were like, you can't do it and you're crazy, all those things. Yeah, so I bought a ridiculously expensive sports car, and that I still have to this day, in fact. Um, and yeah, that was kind of my first like I I really was like, man, I can make this work. So yeah, from that point forward, we did some more um, we did some more filming in the backcountry. Obviously, we're doing that every spring. Did another world record. I did one in a blizzard in Minnesota. Um, so you'll have to check that out. It was literally blowing like 40 miles an hour and snowing sideways, and um, it was a live event, and we were gonna cancel the event because there's no way people were gonna come because it was too snowy.
Mhm.
And then these people just start showing up in droves. And I was like, if these people are going to risk their lives to come to this thing, I'm going to at least give it a shot to set a record. And we did it. We did it in a in a full on blizzard, and it was at the time it was like got picked up by like 12 or 1500 news or channels across the world. It was on the
Mhm.
Weather Channel, it was on SportsCenter's Top 10. It was like, if it would have happened in today's social media universe,
It would
it
have
would
been
have
uber
been,
viral.
like, mega viral, like, hundreds of millions of views, because it got crazy traction without social media was just brand new. So, um yeah, and then so I was, obviously when I was racing snowcross, Winter X Games was always like the goal.
Mhm.
And I could never quite make it. They'd have these X Games qualifiers and they'd take the top 3 guys and I'd finish fourth. And they'd take 5 guys and I'd finish sixth. And I never could quite get there and make it. So Joe Duncan, who is an X Games mainstay and who's always helped, good friend of mine, and helped I've worked with him in all the events that I've done over the years. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this new event at X Games called Speed and Style, and it's basically half snowcross, half freestyle." He's like, "So if you are interested in doing it, you're gonna have to learn how to be a freestyler." And this would have been late 2007 because I think 2008 was my first X Games. So yeah, I basically was like, yeah, man, if it gets me to X Games, so I had to start learning freestyle and let's start learning basic, seat grab tricks and bar tricks and stuff like that. And um yeah, so 2008 would have been the first time I competed at X.
Mhm.
And man, I had so let me backtrack just a bit. So in 2006 or in 2005, I did my first backflip in the backcountry. And we'd been up there filming for a few hours. We'd set a new world mountain, I guess, backcountry world record jump. And I don't remember if it was Giles or Sebastian Landry. They're like, "Well, what do you want to do next?" And I'm like, "I want a backflip." So they had this in this wind lip where the wind had blown this kind of overhang of snow. They dig a a ramp into it, a big steep ramp, and guys were trying to backflip all spring. So I went over there and I checked it out, and I'm like, oh, I got this. Anyway, I go to come in, hit the jump, pin it, get completely upside down, and then your brain takes over because at the apex of a jump, you usually tap the brake, So I'm upside down at the apex of my jump, and I hit the brakes. It was like sled stopped, upside down. I throw it away. It comes crashing down in the snow. Fortunately, it missed me. Didn't hurt the sled any. We get it. All the snow cleared out of it. Set the shot up again. I come around a second time, and I remember, okay, you have to like forget everything you've ever learned about jumping just for a second. So I remember in my mind focusing like I'm looking at a blank chalkboard as I'm coming in the ramp, and I come in, do it, pin it, come all the way around, land the backflip, and that was it. That was the finished my filming for that spring. So the next season, this is 2006. I'm 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I'm super popular. My brand is growing. I'm doing world record jumps. I'm just the coolest guy. Just ask me. And they have this big event at the ski resort at Alyeska called Slush Cup, and it's just a big party. They do the big water at the bottom of the hill, and the guys try to ski through it. Anyway, so we go down there for the first night of Slush Cup, and then we're going to go riding in the backcountry the next day. So I was up too late, and standard what you do on a fun weekend, and we go riding the next day, and I'm planning on backflipping because I'm an expert now because I've done one. And I get up there, we get everything dialed in. There's a big crowd gathered now, and I come around and remind me, and I'll send you the footage because it's really gnarly. Anyway, I hit this flip, and I just go way, way too big. Like we're back flipping at like 70 feet. I'm not even at the apex of the jump at 70 feet. I'm still like going up. And the sled's getting all corked out. Anyway, I know it's not coming. So I come around and it's all corked out, and I try to get away and throw the sled away. The sled lands, and I come down on top of the machine. I broke my nose, eye socket, cheekbone, right ankle, left leg, left arm, and like 7 or 8 ribs. The handlebars came underneath my helmet, caught and laid the inside of my mouth to about mid cheek, knocked all my teeth out. I had 160 or 170 stitches right here in my face, where they had to like stitch my lip back to my gums inside my mouth. Yeah, it was a bad deal. It was one of those bring you back down to earth moments in a big hurry.
Dude, that's a lot of pushing back.
Yeah, that's the first time I'd ever even broke bones, and I
Really?
I made up for lost time. Yeah. So
How long did you
anyway,
take to recover from that?
well, I was in the hospital about 4 days. And then I had to have a couple surgeries after. They missed my broken arm in the ER, so we figured that out later because if I pushed on my wrist, I could make the bump in my arm go straight. So I could send you that one too. If you're queasy, I won't. But and then they had to reconstruct the right side of my face, so it's all mesh plates and stuff in here. They did a pretty good job, actually. Yeah, so that was when Duncan called in 2008, and he's like, yeah, if you want to learn how to do freestyle, I think we have this event for you. I immediately made it up in my mind that, okay, if you're going to go to X Games, you're going to have to learn how to backflip again, which was terrifying. And you're not going to go and win a medal in any event at X Games if you can't flip. And at the time, the flip was still a pretty big trick. Obviously, nowadays you have to do crazy combinations and be hanging off or whatever to score big points in a freestyle event. But at the time, it was still pretty, it was fairly new. Anyway, so I went to work and um, we had a little compound in Steamboat Springs, and I had a sponsor that built me a really nice freestyle slash race sled. And I remember that like 4 days to get up the courage to try to backflip again. And the first one after I did it, it was like it was it was insane. It was like the best feeling. And I did one and then I turned around and did like 25 in a row more. It was just like
Really?
one after another, after another, after another. Yeah. I was just, it became, it went from scariest thing that I have ever done, probably to this day, to do it again after it almost killed me, to I was probably one of, if not the most comfortable at the 2008 X Games backflipping.
I have a question. So you're not working at Wells Fargo now. How are
Correct.
you? How are you making money off of this at this time?
So contracts with I had contracts with Polaris, Monster, Slednex. So, and they had bonus structure. Like I was getting a salary, and then I was, for big events, I would get a bonus. Like I do a world record, and I'd, make 75 grand to do one jump.
And of course,
Yeah.
all your product is free at this time because
Yeah.
you get.
Well, shit, man. To this day, I haven't bought a T-shirt besides the Wally Builds one I bought a few
Mhm.
years ago. I probably haven't bought a T-shirt in probably since 2005.
Wow, like that's what we dream of in RC.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we dream of.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, it was so I show up at X Games and we're gonna do speed and style, and all I wanted to do was backflip. So I backflipped all the ramps and I kept backflipping everything. And my mechanic, who's a good buddy of mine, he finally stopped me and he's like, "You are not allowed to do any more backflips until you do the rest of your tricks." Yeah, it was pretty great. Anyway, I had some sled issues that kept me from off the podium. I ended up fourth in speed and style at that first X Games. But yeah, it was the backflip thing was a still a really big accomplishment for myself personally, because it really, I mean, you get knocked down a few pegs like that. It was a lot to come back and to make it something that I from that point forward, like I would get hired to come to shows just to do backflips.
okay, so that's cool. That's really cool. And when you're talking shows, basically around America,
Oh no, no, all over. We
really?
did some stuff in Europe. I went to New Zealand a couple times. Went to Colombia. Did stuff in Bogota and Medellin.
No
Yeah,
way. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. It became. I mean, it became really really lucrative. Like really lucrative.
Oh yeah,
And
I could
yeah,
imagine if you're traveling
yeah,
to these type of countries to do this type
yeah.
of
And
stuff.
making anywhere from 5 to 15 grand a show. It was, yeah, and you don't have to pay for anything.
No.
Yeah, it was really 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 great. And then that all came crashing down in 2010.
So we're gonna get to that. So you're in your 30s now, I take it, doing this.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
early 30s. Yeah,
Okay, early 30s. Um, wow. And so are you like intermingling with all the you're on Monster at this time as well?
yep,
So you're
yep,
like intermingling with all the Monster guys and all that type of stuff, like the
yep,
extreme athletes that's happening right now.
yep, yep.
That's
So
cool.
I was one of the few well, not winter. I was one of the, because there was a few snowmobilers, but I would go to Summer X Games, and I became friends with the skiers, and
Mm.
Ken Block and I became pretty good friends. McGrath, spent some time with him. We did the Baja 1000 in 2009. That was pretty cool. We had a
You did
athlete
the Baja
car.
1000?
Yeah, well, I did part of it. So we had a team. We had a team that did. There was a team of athletes. So it was myself, Chris Brandt, who's another snowmobiler, Kyle Loza, Jake Brown, Ryan Capes, Ken Block, and Jeremy McGrath was the athlete car, and then they had an executive car, and we raced the Baja 1000. And it was their, I don't know, 20th anniversary or whatever. So they raced from Ensenada to Cabo. So it was actually like 1,300 miles.
Oh, wow.
But that was what an incredible experience that was. Yeah. So then we did the Gumball 1000, which is the rally from coast to coast. That was pretty cool. Dennis Rodman and a whole bunch of other celebrities, housewives, all kinds of stuff were on that. That was pretty wild.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm going to supercrosses, and I'm just the monster athlete standing alongside the other monster athletes.
That's cool. That's very
It was
cool.
awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. So,
But as you said, in 2010, I watched this on the documentary, and I'll let you talk about it because it happened to you. And yeah, maybe run us through what happened.
yeah, so 2010, it would have been November 2010. We were actually at a buddy of mine's compound in Wisconsin, and we were getting basically just early 2011 X Games training. There wasn't any snow yet, but you do wheel skis and you jump to a dirt landing or wood chips or something like that. Super common. And anyway, I was just doing warm up, easy stuff that I'd done, 1,000 times if I'd done it once. And I got a little loose on a uh, on a landing, and I went to grab the handlebars as I came down on the landing with my left hand, and it slipped off the bars, and I folded over, and I took the bar pad right in the center of my chest. And I remember hitting that and landing, going, "Oh shit, that really knocked the wind out of me." And I kind of like went down the landing fine, and I just kind of rolled off the side of the sled, and then immediately I was like, "Oh yeah, something's not right." And I laid there, and my there was a handful of people that were there watching, and finally my buddy, Justin, whose place we were at, and Josh, my buddy slash mechanic, came over, and I'm laying on the bottom of the landing, and Josh was like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" And I was like, "I can't feel my legs." And Josh is like, "Yeah, that's not funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I know it's not funny." And they immediately knew, like, the chills down your spine type scenario. And yeah, they called the ambulance, and the life flight helicopter came and picked me up and took me to the hospital in St. Paul in Minnesota. And yeah, they started putting me back together.
Wow. Yeah, that's a scary situation, right? I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've been in an accident myself and lost. That's why they call me Lefty.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
that's a whole other thing right there. How does one put himself back together after that?
So, to be, and I would imagine that, most athletes, especially action sports athletes, motocrossers, race car drivers, those kind of people will tell you that without being able to accept the risk and what's possible, you will you'll never be as good as you can be. You'll never be the best at anything unless you can accept the risk that comes along with it. And it's especially that way in action sports. If you're always worried about what's going to happen or the consequences, you're never going to be able to fully trust in what you're doing. And so there's a level of risk you have to be okay with. I had decided when I had, started doing this, that I knew what was possible, but I was I loved what I was doing more than I was concerned about what could happen, I guess is the best way to put it. So I didn't really ever have any, you know, "Oh, woe is me" pity moments. I kind of subscribed to the mindset right off the bat. I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna get to the hospital, they're gonna put me back together again, and everything's gonna be fine." But if not, you knew this could happen, so you can't really, you know, be hypocritical about it. And now you're going to be sad because you knew that you could hurt yourself bad or possibly die doing this stuff, and something bad happened, and now you're gonna. No, I was not going to be that guy. I was just like, no, we will deal with it and figure out how to, just I move on isn't the right thing because you can't really ever move on from it. But just figure out how to live with it, I guess. So, but yeah, I wasn't I never to this day I never have sat in my chair or in bed and cried because I was sad that I couldn't lift or grab the things off the high shelf again more. So
Obviously, my injury is not to that extent that you had, but it was a life-changing injury for me, right? But I never was sad. I was like, my life has been an absolute adventure since then, and sometimes I have to tell people. It takes like I remember I was working in the UK, right, in the tunnels. That's what I ended up working in tunnels. I was there 3 months before my boss even knew there was something wrong with my arm,
yeah,
and but seriously, like, I never obviously, it was my fault, completely my fault, and was my whole doing, but, like, I was like, "I need a break," like, and it just came in a different form, and I have never once sat there and said, "Woe is me." I was like, I try to if I can't do something, I let you know? But really, like, it's weird. I'm not saying it's the same thing, but I kinda adapted the attitude, "Okay, now I have my break," and then things led to where I am now.
yeah,
Uh, the journey between there and where I am now has been awesome. I've been many places, even before RC, doing the RC stuff. I've been many places, met people from all over the world, moved completely out of my home country, lived here in the Dominican Republic for almost 20 years, and yeah, I guess that injury kinda pushed me to do something different in life, and if it wasn't for the injury, be I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I wouldn't be living my dream, my
yeah.
passion, which is RC. So, I feel you on that. Obviously, I was not an extreme athlete or anything like that, but my injury changed my life for the better, to be
Yeah,
honest. I'm not saying that's the case with you,
yeah.
but I never I never was sad about it, or woe is me.
Well, I mean, it's very much similar. I mean, you know, I it everybody goes through stuff. Everybody has trauma. Everybody, so I'm not special. That's how I kind of looked at it. Like, okay, but it's same thing. Like on my end, it put things in a very different perspective. Would I have started doing, giving back, doing the veteran stuff, and
Mhm.
would I have done that? Probably, maybe eventually, probably not as quickly. Um, because I always felt the the way I ended up or the trauma that I experienced, how I got there is very different, but it's still the same trauma that our veterans have gone through. Like the
Mhm.
feelings are the same. So that's
Mhm.
kind of why I started doing that stuff, was because I could relate on a level that the psychiatrist sitting across the table writing a prescription couldn't.
Got you.
So
We're gonna come back to that because I wanna talk about
yeah.
that. But I really wanna know what happens to you next. Like, how long of a recovery are we looking at? I mean, obviously, where you can get back to somewhat of a quote unquote "normal life." Um, and what was next after that for you? What did you do?
So the wheels started turning really quickly when I was still in the hospital. I was like, okay, now what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do it? Kind of started going through, well, not kind of, was definitely going through my head. Like if this is my future, how are we gonna make it work? So I was in the hospital in Minnesota for, I don't know, 2.5 weeks or so, and they're like, okay, we're gonna send you home. And I was like, what? Anyway, so I did a little research and was like, okay, I probably feel like I need, some more rehab than this. So that's we got in touch with Craig Hospital in Denver, and I went from um, the hospital in Minnesota, flew to Denver, and Craig is just an incredible brain injury and spinal cord rehab center. It's like boot camp for injuries. Like your day starts at 8 a.m. in the morning. You're doing your fitness and then wheelchair classes, and basically they're teaching you how to cook and how to use the bathroom now and shower, all those things that. Anyway, so I had 6 months. I was supposed to be in rehab in Craig. I was there 3.5 weeks, and they're like, Paul, we can't justify keeping you here because your insurance doesn't want to pay if you're teaching the wheelchair classes. So I actually went straight from Denver. My mom was there, so we had a car. We drove to X Games, and I announced Winter X Games, 2011. I didn't ride, obviously. I tried like hell to ride because they had adaptive snowcross, and I'm like, no, I'm good. And I even had the doctor. I was like, am I good? He's like, yeah, I think you're good. And my mom was like, oh, hell no, you are not racing. Anyway, so the parents won out, even though I had the doctor convinced that I would be good to go and race X Games, right? Like less than 4 months after my injury. Anyway, but yeah, I was already, trying to figure out, okay, I obviously I can't ride the same, but that doesn't mean I can't ride at a high level. So, I basically that next, I guess it probably would end maybe spring of 2011. I got in touch with Polaris, and they have a department called Visioneering, and it's their engineering department, and they just basically come up with new ideas. And so I was like, would you guys be interested in building me a seat so that I can race snowcross again? And they were all about it. So we got together and got the juices flowing and our brains working, and built the first generation of the Polaris seats. They built me two different ones, but the first one had like one big shock absorber and some side shock absorbers to keep me upright. And yeah, that's when I was able to start getting back in the backcountry and start racing snowcross again. And yeah, just I mean we did, obviously, from the winter project video you've seen, I've done some pretty big jumps, seatbelt into that thing. And I always, like, people kind of looked at me like I was insane even trying that. You're like, dude, what happens if you crash? I'm like, well, what happens if I crashed anyway? What am I going to break my back again? But in my mind, I still knew how to do it.
Mhm.
Couldn't stand up. I still, your brain is still working the same. So I was like, no, I think I can keep doing the same stuff. And I did and
So,
do.
so now that you're not doing like the world record jumps and all that stuff, how are you funding all this type of stuff, or how are you making a living off of this at this time?
So that was a tough one. So I went from making really, really good money to, like, not at all. Um, so I had to downsize and sell a bunch of stuff. And we did, Monster was really awesome. That we did some big fundraisers and helped raise money. And um, basically, and at first they were, there was some big question marks, especially with the sponsors I had, because you never know how that's going to go. I could very easily just kind of slip into obscurity and not be a part of it anymore, or I could continue to be relevant. Um, so that took about a year or so, and that's when I was like, I obviously can't do this, compete at the same level. So that's when I had um, I actually was, so at the time, let me backtrack just a bit. At the time, Monster, or the powers that be, were trying to ban energy drinks on our military bases. They felt that our soldiers coming back from combat were drinking too many energy drinks, and it was contributing to them not being able to recover from PTSD.
Mm.
So it was actually Monster and Rockstar got together, went to Congress, and testified, and we're like, hey, why don't we, or testified to the powers that be, and we're like, hey, instead of just, obviously, if you drink a couple Monsters before you try to go to bed, you're not going to sleep very well. But if you drink a pot of coffee, you're not going to be able to sleep very well either. So why don't we work together, and let's see if we can, help the recovery process instead of, you know, giving a solution to a problem that is not actually the real problem. So they did research, found that out of all the stick and ball sports, that action sports athletes had the most common with our veterans. I don't know, whatever I tend to believe it's the adrenaline addiction,
Mhm.
because the first time in combat you get shot at, you're probably, you pee a little bit. First time I did a backflip, I got freaked out and peed a little bit. After the 200 time, it's not a big a deal.
Got you.
So, you're jacked up all the time in adrenaline, and then you come home and you don't have anywhere to put that energy. It's not so different than what we go through when you retire or get hurt or any of those things. So, Monster sent a team up. They were putting together these videos to document some of their athletes who had been through traumatic experiences. And basically, they just wanted me to tell my story, not so different than here. So I sat down, and as I'm telling my story, knowing what it's going to be or what it's going to be for, what worked, how I recovered, how I'm, finding a high quality of life again. I was like, man, I can really relate to some of these guys. I need to do this. So I basically did the paperwork and started a nonprofit shortly after. And that first year, I think 2014, we did one snowmobile event in Togety, Wyoming. And now I'll do upwards of 22, 25 events, ranging from snowmobiling to side-by-sides to RC to fishing.
So you're taking the veterans out on these vehicles.
Yep.
How many groups of guys do you doing this with usually?
So usually I keep the groups like 6 to 8, pretty small. So
Mhm.
the nice small, intimate groups that and sometimes the guys know each other, and the cool thing about it all is that it's all been, I mean, I've been doing these for over a decade now, and everyone that's come has done word of mouth.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the what's the association called?
It's just the Paul Thacker Recovery Foundation.
Really? That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. So you found basically you found I don't know what the word to use, solace in being an ambassador to these guys who probably needed somebody like you.
Well,
Who
it's kind of twofold, really, because
Yes, exactly.
it's one, it's like, man, this industry really has given me, well, everything. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like it's responsible for the house I live in, and my wife and my kids are all, it's all part of what snowmobiling has given me over the years. So it was like an opportunity to give back, which was important, because your priorities change when you go through something that, is, I guess, is as traumatic as it gets without being gone from the planet.
mhm.
Um, so the opportunity to give back and then still stay relevant in the industry that I love, and motivate me to keep doing the shit that I like to do, because it motivates people to keep doing what they like to do. So it's like a bit of a domino effect. I get a lot of people that are like, "Man, you inspire me to do this and that," and I'm like, "Bro, you have no idea how much you just inspired me by sending me the inspiration message."
That's cool, man. I had no idea you did all of this. I mean, you probably told me this, but I'm airhead and I forget things quite a lot.
You have
But
a lot going on. You get
I
a
think
pass.
it's I think that's awesome. So you've been doing that since for over a decade now, and that's
Yeah.
I assume that takes up a lot of your time.
It does, especially in the winter time. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, in fact, I just did a fishing trip on Monday.
Really?
Yeah, we took a couple guys out. Well, one veteran, and the second veteran was my dad. So, but that's one of the perks is my dad's a veteran, so I get to take him a few times a year.
Okay, sweet.
So
I met some guys that do crawling that are a veterans group at Armageddon. I can't remember their names. They're very nice guys. I met them. I took one of their flyers last year when I was down at Cletus McFarland's place. I think
man,
anything
yeah, it's great. Well, like I was, it all kind of comes down to just like these should be the people that are put on a pedestal as far as I'm concerned, and
absolutely.
they're not. And they're not treated as well as they ever should be. And just to know that there's people out there that actually give a shit about them, it's amazing how far that goes. They just
I agree. I'm not even American, and when I see somebody, I'm like, "Hey, thank you for your
oh
service."
yeah, yeah, that's
You
great.
know? So, that's good, man. So it like I said, it works twofold. You get solace and inspiration from helping them, and you help them overcome some stuff. I don't know if I don't know if I suffer from PTSD at all, but in that case, I never really feared anything or feel any way about it, but I can see how it happens to people, especially in extreme situations like that.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
but I can see the correlation between extreme because I mean, when you're an extreme athlete, you are literally one trick away from not being her, so
Yeah.
it's very similar to what you said. And it's cool. Paul Thacker Foundation, right?
Yeah, just the Paul Thacker. I think I'm not very good about keeping my website updated. It's pt11.com is the website, but there's some information. If anybody wants any information, just hit me up on social media is the easiest.
So, are you still doing, like, announcing or X game visits or anything like that for sponsors, or how does that work for you?
So I do a little bit. There hasn't been any motors at Winter X Games since 2020.
Mm.
Um, so there hasn't
Why
really
is that?
been much because it's in Aspen. I don't know. I, I'm not really sure. I kind of felt over the years that our space kept shrinking and shrinking. It kind of felt like we were getting pushed out, even though it's one of the most popular events always at X Games are the
Mhm.
snowmobiles. Um, it's that particular part of the country is not big fans of things that burn fossil fuel. I don't think so. That's probably part of it.
But is there still a industry around the snow machine industry doing that type of stuff? Is it kinda going back to obviously, it's more about the viral video and the shorter videos. Has it gone back to that type of, uh,
Yeah, I mean,
backward type of situation?
social media changed the landscape a lot because um you don't need the movie industry that we all you'd do a segment for a video and they'd sell 100,000 copies or 150,000 copies. But yeah, the social media has changed the landscape. So it's kind of like everything is shorter attention span now. So
Mhm.
the reels are kind of the big, those 3-minute segments. There isn't really a ton of movies and stuff that they make anymore. Those days seem to kind of be behind us. Although I think there is probably a market for it because people are pretty tired of social media, I think, as a whole.
But I
But
mean the
it's
sport, is it still an active sport outside of the X Games stuff?
yeah. There's still snowcross wise, there's still a circuit. Um, the freestyle end of things is not as big as it
Mm,
was, but it's not as big as it was for motocross either.
mm.
It's definitely that at least for now that those heydays are behind us. Um,
Really? Hmm.
yeah,
I haven't watched freestyle motocross in years, so
yep,
that would
exactly. Like
uh,
it isn't as big as it was,
hmm.
10, 15 years ago. For whatever reason, I don't know why. The live stuff is always what I would consider the most fun, but it just isn't. It's like there isn't. I mean, maybe it has something to do with the you know economics of the putting on events and stuff like that. If they just became too expensive, or I'm not sure, but It's definitely not as big as it was.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and now we can segue Con into RC because that's how I know you. And I actually think that freestyle RC is the next big thing. If you ever watch that guy, Kamikaze RC on
Oh yes,
Instagram,
I follow.
dude,
Yeah,
he's like the coolest dude. I met him.
is
He's
it?
from Hawaii. You never see him. He's just like his name Kainoa. He's just like, yeah, man. What? He's like a real Hawaiian dude. And he taught we met. I tell him when I'm gonna get you on this podcast. I need to shut up and do it because he's just a cool dude. And he always sends me his reels. And then when I
Oh
like
yeah,
and I talk to him like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, "Just enjoying RC, Lefty." It's cool, dude.
people.
He's talented.
Yeah, no, it's this stuff. It's awesome. I want to. I'm curious. I want to know how many cars he breaks before he gets the shop.
Dude, when I went to Armageddon, so like I discovered about the Bashing World. It's about your YouTube channel, right? It's all about who's got the biggest YouTube channel. Everybody's there filming, right? And when we was there was like Mark Santamaria, who I just interviewed her recently too, the guy from RC Driver Online, and then like Kamikaze RC because nobody really knows who he is because nobody sees him. He's just
Right.
out practicing, doing backflips, doing this and doing that. And then he always come up to me and I was like, dude, I really like what you're doing. And I said, not no disrespect to anybody else here, but like you actually have you're skilled. Like it's your skill that makes you popular, not, you know, unveiling videos or doing something crazy. And dude, what he does is amazing. Like I was like, how do you come up with? He's like, do you see he's doing like manuals and all this type of stuff.
I
And I'm
know
like,
it. It
he's just
yeah.
pushing it. Amazing.
It's super impressive. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's super
I think that's
impressive.
gonna catch people's eyes, and it has. But I would have to agree. The social media side, the reels things, like just getting that's what's worked for my channel. Like I have a few, not obviously not $100 million real, but 20 million, 20 million her, which is good. It
Yeah. Oh, it's
gets
great.
eyes on RC. But yeah, quick attention span. But let's talk about that because I do know you from RC, and I wanted everybody to know your story. I wanted to learn more of your story as well. But where does RC fit into all of this? How did that all start?
So I guess I was probably I wasn't in. I don't even think I was in. I wasn't even. I was still in grade school when I got my first RC car, and it was a Turbo Ultima. All my buddies got RC10s, and I was like, I don't want to be like you guys. I want a Turbo Ultima. Anyway, that would have been, God, I don't know, probably, I don't know, when did the Turbo Ultima, 87, 88, something like that?
Yeah, late
86?
80s.
Yeah, mid late 80s. Anyway, yeah, so there was a group of buddies of mine, and we just all got RC cars, and Um, that was like the first year we'd just take them up to the school. We'd camp out at the back behind the school in our tents and sleeping bags and just charge back because back then you just had trickle chargers. There was no quick chargers really, or if they had one, it was like crazy expensive. So you'd run a battery pack and then we'd hang out for a couple hours while our batteries charged, and then go do it again. Um, and then probably 87 we started doing there was some local dirt racing, and then by then I probably had a JRX2 or an RC10 because the Ultima didn't work out very well for me. I always been that skinny chassis. And then let's see, started really racing. So the last year that I raced dirt before I got back into it here recently was 1989. We were I don't even remember what Roar region Alaska was at the time, but the the state fair had 10 scale races, and the top two from stock and modified, or top three, got to go. No, top two got to go to the Roar Nationals, and
Nice.
I was to the point where I was going to be a professional RC car racer. All I had to do was, I mean, I buy all the new RC car action magazines, and I was, you know, reading about all the fast racers, and I was like, I can do this. Anyway, I finished third in two-wheel drive modified, and I didn't get to go. And I was devastated. So that was basically, that was From about that point forward, I think I was 14 or 15, and just before I could drive, and that's when I kind of discovered, girls and started playing hockey, and so the RC kind of took a back seat. Um, when I came back after college in 99 2000, I did a little on road for about a season, and then I guess it's been 3 years ago now. A buddy of mine that lives here in the neighborhood saw me driving, and he's like, "Oh man, I've been meaning to reach out to you." It's like, we do touring car carpet down at the convention center. You should come do it. So I went to the hobby shop, bought cars, started doing touring car, and then it has turned into now. It is a full on. I mean, addiction isn't even the right word. It's so much worse than that.
I know, I know, I know.
It's so much like, all I do now is RC. I mean,
Mm,
I have been going back through all of the old national races, all the old silver states, DNCs, the Euros, the Worlds. I've watched all the mains already, so now I'm going back through and watching all the qualifying and quarterfinals and semifinals,
You got it.
because I like to watch what the cars are doing, and when I watch them doing things that aren't, I'm like, okay, this is what I would change to make it go better. It
Interesting.
is just,
So
yeah,
I want to draft back. So Alaska's always had RC scene then.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of
Wow.
comes and goes, but
Okay.
I mean, there was points when I first started doing this last, when I was a couple few years, or a few years ago, when we started doing touring cars, we were getting like 85 cars.
Hmm.
It was big nights, like, for club racing. It's a big
Okay.
turnout.
So,
Um,
but I mean, even back in the day, like in the 80s,
yep.
state
Oh
fair
yeah.
races and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, there was some couple of dirt tracks. There was one out in Wasilla. There was one in Anchorage. Um, yeah, there's always been, since I've known about RC cars, there's been some form of RC in the state.
So I gotta ask, what type of touring cars did you buy right off the at the bang 3 years ago?
So I went with the Yokomo, the BD10s,
Okay.
and I didn't like them. So ran those for a little bit, and then I went to the Schumacher, and I liked that for a bit, but then a whole bunch of people bought Schumachers, so then I was like, okay. So since then, the last 3 seasons, I've run Osmatics.
Okay, so you still do on road up there then?
We did this last winter. I'm not sure how much on road we'll do this winter with the off road carpet happening, but we'll see.
So I guess is my next question is when did you get to the glory that is nitro? When did that happen?
So, um, I was I thought, when I first started racing dirt, I guess 3 years ago, I was like, nitro, that shit's for the birds, dude. It's too hard. Electric's fine. I'll be and actually, that's about the time when I got introduced to Wally builds.
Mm. How'd you meet Wally?
And so I don't remember how, I mean, we met through social media, but I don't remember exactly how we started chatting, or if I just came across his page or saw, anyway. But I was like, "Hey man, we should chat about, doing something together
Mhm.
and working together somehow, and then I'll, come down. You can prep cars and whatnot, and I'll come down and do some races down south." And that's when I got into nitro. So Wally built my first nitro car.
Okay.
Um, and man, it was tough. Nitro is
It
tough to at
it is
some
very hard.
races. It is tough. And I was super frustrated with it. It was I did because I mean, I have a background in motorsports, so I know what a good sounding engine is supposed to sound like. I
Mhm.
just couldn't figure out how to make that happen.
Mhm.
So it took a little while, and from that point till now, so that was three summers ago. Yeah, this would have been the third summer race in nitro. So 3 summers ago was the first time I'd ever run a nitro or an 8 scale car at all, honestly. I'd only ever done 10 scale. And I would gladly sell all my electric shit to run just nitro now.
Well, that's a great question. Now, do you feel? I always think like guys that did motocross or supercross, like Tebow came from motocross. Saxton was a motocross guy. Even Bornhorst did motocross till he injured himself, and they seem to pick it up very easy. Do you think that athletes like that, because the physics are the same to an extent,
Yep.
and line choices and what you do with it, do you feel that that's an advantage for you guys? Do you think that helps you out a bit?
100%.
Do you?
100%.
Okay,
Yep.
better question. Does it feel okay? Physically, you're not in the cars, but do you get the same adrenaline that you probably do as you would have doing snowcross or motocross,
Yes. I would
but a
say
different way?
yes. So so it's RC is worse.
Really?
I get more nervous in mains on RC than I ever got racing or doing freestyle.
Really?
Yeah, because when I was on a sled, I am fully in control of everything that's going on.
Got you.
I don't have 12 other squids trying to run me off the track.
And
And
you're not
I
in the vehicle.
right. So there's so much more out of your control in RC
Mhm.
than in and like I commented on Wally's post the other day about I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but there's as a as you move up the tier in RC, like take say motocross for instance. Eli Tomac has a suspension guy. He's got an engine guy. He's got a bike cleaner guy. He's got a general mechanic guy. He's got a girl that gives him water. Like he's got people.
Yes,
In RC, you're all of those people.
pretty much. Unless you
Even
do have a mechanic when you're at the top tier.
for sure. Well, and I have a guy that I bring vets to the event
Mm.
because I get them involved. But
Right,
I
that's right. I met
also,
one
yeah, you met Pat, yeah,
at AMS.
yeah, and they get involved and you know are part of a team and all that stuff.
Mhm,
Anyway, I because I can't really do it all myself anyway.
mhm.
But even if you're Dakota, you have a mechanic. He's still doing his tires. He's still tuning his engine. He's still doing his shocks. Like you're still wearing all of those hats. So that when you think about it, that is as a like professional athlete at any high racing level, you're 95% of what you do is drive.
Mhm,
You don't have to worry about you can relay what you need change, but you're not making those changes. In
mhm,
RC, you're doing it all. So you
mhm,
have to pack all of that stuff in and drive.
mm. I never even thought of it that way, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah,
Mm,
it's different. And I definitely have to get more nervous on the mains. Or if I have like one really shitty qualifier right off the bat, and I'm like, oh man, I have got to have two good ones in a row, or I'm gonna be in the C main. That I get pretty nervous with those two.
okay, so being as you're a former, professional athlete at a high level, I've said it on the podcast before that a lot of people think that RC is easy, right? And that they can do it, or if they just have more practice, they'll be as good as a Dakota fan. Let's use him for an example. These guys, Dakota fans, the Ronda Fox, the Mayfields, these guys are the top level of what we do in offering. I try to relate to people that not only are these guys have a special talent for this, but they also have a work ethic and they have the it factor, like
Yep.
any other professional athlete. I guess it would be like I'll use old school, Jeremy McGrath, or a Kobe Bryant in basketball, or in football, we look at guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, soccer, and all this type of stuff. These guys, yes, they're playing against other guys that are skilled, but these guys have a special it factor that makes them above the rest. And you can't, not everybody has that, right? And I think the attitude that these, like I always said, Mayfield and Fenn, if they were like doing another sport, they'd be a professional in that because they have the mentality and they have that drive to be like that, right? And that's something that not everybody's born with. I think you're born with it because obviously you came very close to being a professional hockey player. You did snow machine at a very high level. It seems like you do everything at a very high level or try to. But these guys have that same mentality, that same it factor, and that's why these guys are where they at. Like they're the epitome of. I was having this discussion with a guy the other day. He's like, "Well, if I think if other people, if other kids with talent, they could get to this, they'll be just as good as them." And I was like, "No, because these guys have a talent for it from a very young age to do it, just like that special basketball player, that special motocross rider, that special person in any other sport." Do you think that applies? Am I off? Am I wrong on
No,
that? Or
not at all. Here's the simplest way to put it. No, you're absolutely spot on. Not everybody has, you call it the innate ability, it factor. Pe- you have to be the best at something in the world or at the top of something in the world. You have to have the talent to get there. But if you don't have the work ethic and the time management
Mhm,
and the ability to manage stress, all of those things come into play. Um, and all the best athletes refuse to give up,
mhm.
even when they get the shit kicked out of them. Um, I mean, yeah, the Mayfields and the Dakota Fens they don't win every weekend. Like that, damn well that Mayfield is pissed, super pissed after the Nationals.
And you could see he was still trying
He
to the
was,
very end.
and he could easily be like, you know what, I don't need this stress anymore. I'm done. But the opposite will happen. He'll be more driven to beat Dakota at the next race.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
it's
I call him the relentless one for a reason. Like he doesn't give up. But
yeah, he's impressive.
and then
They're all impressive, man. It's um I had another point that I was going to make. It'll come back to me, but um yeah, there's more. There's a level of talent that you have to be born with for
Mhm,
sure. But that's only part of the program. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I drive and practice and ride all the time. Am I going to be, you know, beating Dakota Fend anytime soon? Yeah, probably not.
no.
Because I don't have, I'll be okay. I can drive. I'm a decent
Mhm,
deal, but I'm not going to be, you know, competing at the highest level. Because I'm old and my reaction time doesn't quite. But that's um, yeah. God, I wish I could remember. I had a really
yep, I'm
profound
sure we'll
point to
come
make,
back to it. I'm sure we'll come back to it.
but no,
Uh,
you are spot on. Like, well,
I
it's funny because talking about somebody who says if I just practice a whole lot, there's so much more to it than just practice.
mhm, so much
And
more.
yeah,
Because
anyway,
we had this discussion, recently on the last podcast about the Euros where a question was brought up about pre-race practice, right? And
yeah,
I was like,
I watched, yeah.
I know I pissed off the person that asked that question, and I'm just like, they're like you're like a privateer trying to challenge against the pros who make do this for a living. I know it's not easy, right? But if you was gonna be a pro, you probably would be there at that point. You'd be beating these guys, and it takes more than just beating them once. And these guys are just I think, just on a different level that people you don't see it till maybe you see the international guys come, and then like the Europeans come, and they like a worlds at every worlds that I've been to 3 now, and 2 8 scale and 1 12 scale. And it's the same, like the level just keeps going up and up and up
Oh
every time you
man,
hit the track because they're all trying to one up each other, right? And
yep,
that pushes does but basically what I'm saying is like Fend and Mayfield don't really have that push in the USA because they're at the top. They're at the
yep,
top and everybody's chasing them, right? They push each other. But when they get to around the Europeans who have guys who are equal skill of them,
yep,
it's like, oh yeah, we got to step up and we got to push. We've seen Fenn kind of be a little bit more in the last two worlds. If you look at the last two worlds, he's the one, and Mason Fuller, like Mason Fuller and Fenn were the two Americans that made the last finals. But it's a level that you don't see, or like even I tell people all the time, you haven't seen real speed yet. Okay, maybe Ryan Lutz or somebody came to your local track and he beat everybody by 3 laps. He wasn't out there pushing hard. He was just out there putting on a show
Driving.
for you guys, right? But when you see these guys get together at some of these big races, like I'm pretty sure Wicked Weekend, well, as we're recording this, Wicked Weekend, I'll be off to that. Some Europeans are coming, so the level goes up, right? And these guys are like, okay, so here's some real threat to what we're gonna do here. So we have to be on our A game. And I tell people all the time, like DNC, you see it because it gets a lot of Europeans there and a lot of mix of different people. And the whole level goes up of everybody. And until you see that, and that's when you realize, okay, these guys are on a whole different level. I don't care how much practice you do. I don't care if you could buy the same stuff that they have. You're probably just going to make it to 99% of the people in that race RC and 8 scale should be an intermediate. That's where you belong. It's the 1% that's the pro guys, you know? And being in the C main or pro is pretty much like being in the top A main of intermediate because you the gains in pro are like this, like that. They're so minute, but the gains in intermediate a little bigger and sportsman, obviously. But yeah, I'm glad I wanted to talk to you about that. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask. And I have another one.
Well,
But
I remember the point that I was going to make about being professional at something, especially something like this. Is I remember when I was first, potentially having an opportunity to do snowmobiling as a career. A gentleman I used to get my dirt bikes from at the Yamaha shop was an old ice racer, and he did it for a living for a while. And he's like, I think that's awesome that you have a chance to do this. He goes, the only piece of advice I will tell you to remember is this. He goes, right now you're doing it because you love it and it's a lot of fun. When it becomes your job and it's work, it's not as much fun. And for these guys to continue to be at the top of their game for their job, knowing full damn well, having been through it, that it's not as much fun as it was when you started doing it is really impressive. It's really
yep,
impressive.
because I, people obviously we go to these races and people are doing this as their hobby. They're taking time off from work. They're coming there to relax. But for a certain percentage of people, and I'm not racing, but I go to these races to work to an extent. It's your job, and they're doing this on the weekend, and you're not thinking about the time that they put in throughout the week to get their cars ready. Then they have to travel to this race. They have to be away from their family. It's a lovely job, but it becomes a job after, and then the pressure because
Oh yeah.
the pressure to do well, not only because it's financially beneficial. Some of these guys who are not like there's only a few guys that are making really decent money with this, I would say. Then there's a whole bunch of guys who aren't making a bunch of money with this. They're making just enough. Maybe they have to live at home or share a house with somebody, but they're chasing the dream, right? They're professional drivers, but they're not making a bunch of money. I mean, obviously Mayfield said on Wheel and Trigger he makes about maybe 150 to 175 a year. That's good money, but
Yeah.
compared to maybe some other sports, it's not really good. And I think at that level, it's a sport. I think for that 1%, it's a sport. And we're
100%.
and we're doing the hobby of the sport of RC car racing, right?
Yeah.
But I think because RC is such a participation sport and you get to rub shoulders with these guys, which is great. I love that part of it. I think a lot of people fail to realize that this is a job. And when people tell me, "Oh man, I really want to work in the industry," I say, "You don't know how nice it is to just enjoy racing on the weekend, and enjoying yourself." And and I'm not obviously I've never raced for a living, but I've worked at races for a living. And sometimes it's good just to be able to hang out and enjoy yourself and do that. Well, these guys, when they aren't racing, they want to do other things besides racing, right? They want to go enjoy it. They have significant others and kids and children that they want to do things with. And remember, maybe 2 or 3 of their weekends of the month is taken up with racing,
Yeah, they're
right?
working. They work.
So
They work. They work. Yeah. And there's no when you do this stuff, there's no days off.
no,
Like even you see Dakota and Mayfield's fun day on the lake. I guarantee somewhere along that day when they're playing on the water, they did something related to RC.
Oh, they talked about it, you know?
Yeah,
They probably
yeah,
probably talked about me talking about the Europeans or something like that, or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
You never know. But
yeah.
it's still a job. Now, mind you, it's a very minute amount of people that get to do it, and I think it's special. But I think when you don't do it for a job, it it wor it's extra special to you, but it wears off, and then it becomes, "Hey, I need to win. I wanna win first off the bat. Now if I win, I make it's not about okay, it's not about the money, but it's competitive. I wanna win because I wanna win. But also if I win, I'll make an extra $2,000, $3,000 than I would if I finished 5th, right? And that's payments for
Mm,
this, stuff like that.
for sure. Well, and if you don't win, you don't have any longevity. It's that
Exactly.
simple. Like you want job security. The best way to have job security in any type of motorsport racing is to win. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of similarities because the snowmobile industry, there was probably maybe I would say there was probably 5, 6, maybe 7 people that were making really good money.
Mm,
And then there was a probably another 10 or 15 that same kind of deal, probably making 30 or 40 grand a year, probably living at home or living at the team race shop or whatever. But there was only just a half dozen or so that I would say were making legitimately enough money to make a living and, raise a family, own a home, those things that, you would come to like the Dakotas and the Mayfields of the industry, the Ron Falks, those guys are, you know, yeah. So
yeah.
there's a lot of parallels there for sure.
Yeah, because you were saying that you believe that the snow machine or snowmobile industry is the racing side of things is smaller than actual probably
Yeah.
smaller than the RC bashing side. I would think that RC
For
racing's smaller than that.
no, I would the racing. I mean, there's lots of
Mhm.
different forms, but like the snowcross side, I would bet it's if anything, it's about the same. But I'd bet the snow machines or snowmobile side smaller.
Well, then also people probably have snowmobiles in for recreational use as
Oh, for
well.
sure. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
exactly the same. You've got lots of
Mm,
hobbyists that think they could practice and go race at the top level.
mm,
That's a pretty standard. So I know all about what you're talking about because
right.
if I practiced, I could go to X Games. It's like, yeah, maybe. I mean, but
Maybe.
probably
Mhm.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that it factor. And obviously you're a man that's been involved with big sponsors like Monster and Polaris and all this type of stuff. And it's been our dream to get one of these sponsors to RC. But when somebody tells me that I have to remind them that we don't have a product for that. We have we think it's big. We go to these races. Let's take a DNC or PMB. There's 400 to 500 people there. They're all racers and racers' families. We don't have spectators because it's not really a spec. It can be a spectator sport, but there's no financial benefit in it being a spectator sport because we can't charge people to come into it. Right. So the spectators are the participants at these races. Then, of
Yep.
course, we have the streaming world where people from the world tune in, but it's mostly RC racers. And we always have this, how do we get a monster? How do we get this in? But there has to be some benefit more than the 500 racers at the race and the 2,500 people maybe watching the stream. What's your thought
Yep.
on that?
So we've been a snowmobile issue forever.
Mhm,
Back in the day, it was you could watch snowcross on ESPN, but it
mhm.
never. X Games really was the thing that put it on the map. It
Okay.
was a gave us a platform. It's funny because I did an HBO Real Sports one time, and they were like, "Well, don't you feel like you're being taken advantage of by these promoters to go and you know do these events and risk your life?" And I'm like, "Nobody's twisting my arm to do this. It's giving me a platform." So I can get paid by sponsors. So absolutely no, I'm not getting taken advantage of. It's a pretty nice trade-off. So do I think I absolutely think that RC has the size and the demographic that should attract big sponsors. You have your male dominated, you know, usually folks that can afford to do it are,
Mhm.
middle class, upper middle class. Those are like, take an energy drink sponsor, for instance. Those are demographics that they like to dive into.
Mm.
So the trick is going to be like, I heard you and Ryan Stiles talking about it as well, and how the RCGP. By the way, those driven videos are awesome.
It was a lot of
They're
work.
so
I,
good.
I,
They're so good.
it was a lot of work.
They're so good. I love that shit. You know, I know that everybody's fast. Like, it's the same stuff in the snowmobile world. Like, I know the guys that do freestyle are awesome. I want to know what makes them tick. I want the behind
Mm.
the scenes. Um. Anyway, so those were really good. I enjoyed those a lot. So the I I know it's and man, we run into the same thing in the snowmobile industry. Is you have a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time that are just unwilling to hear or change or do different ideas. RC is exactly the same. And um I actually, it's funny, Joe, the Duncan, the gentleman I talked about earlier that helped me do all of my events and did Winter X Games and stuff, he happened to be in Vegas during Silver State last year or the year before. And I was like, dude, you got to come check this out. So he's like, okay, I'll swing by on the way to the airport. He couldn't believe, he had no idea that this world even existed.
I know.
He's like, I cannot believe, he's like, what do we have to do some events? And I'm like, well, we need to get some people all on the same page for starters and I would like nothing more than to have the Monster Energy RC Supercross series and do, because Monster's huge in Europe too. So you could do, 4 events in the States and, 1 or 2 overseas. I really do think it could be a possibility. It just has to be the right people involved and the right packaging. Supercross is so popular because it's a short, targeted show.
Mhm.
You could very easily morph a Saturday night and do the pros all Saturday night.
It's so you talk about Ryan Stiles Harris. I haven't released this yet, but we actually talk about this on latest podcast that I did with him, and I 100% agree with you. So what a lot of people don't realize about RCGP was they weren't a race promotion team or race promoters. They were a media company that put on a race. So they for that the first season was the best season, like with the driven and all that
Yep.
stuff. They were the first, in my opinion, the first production team that said, "Hey, we want you guys to be yourselves. We want you guys to curse. We want you guys to say what's going on." Because I personally think, and don't get me wrong, there's been lots of great documentaries. I think Corey Drakenberg does his
Yep.
5150 documentaries. RC Racing, RC Racing TV was the people that did this. What Live RC done with the Visions race, I get what they were trying to do, and they've done great stuff of getting it in front of people that way. But look what the Drive to Survive did for F1 in America.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
I truly believe, even though Driven is 6 years ago, 5 years ago, right? The quality of that docuseries and full docuseries it should be on Netflix. It should be on a Netflix stuff so people can see it. I think it's that quality. And it doesn't matter that it took place 5 years ago. In the RC world, okay, it's different now. Everything's different because I'm actually releasing some reels because I know the RCG people. They gave me the footage, and I'm releasing some reels as like a 5-year anniversary. And I I s- it really aggravates me that people us RC nerds. This is our life, right? This is our thing. We think RC is so huge, but nobody knows about what we're doing, man. They don't know that
Well,
we race these things.
it is an enormous industry. It is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. Like, it is an untapped resource as far as I'm concerned. If you are you know, even a Geico or a Monster or a, whatever, the amount of money that you would have to put in to make something cool to the return on investment would be tenfold, I bet.
They don't have to put much.
No,
They could
no,
put $100,000 into RC, and that would,
which is nothing.
to them, nothing. That's, you know what somebody told me? He goes, "We're not asking for enough. You go to ask these people for $50,000, it's not enough. You need to ask
Yeah.
for 250,
I
stuff
was
like
just gonna
that."
say quarter $1,000,000. Yeah,
Yeah,
good
and
place
that
to
was
start.
like, but we what I would say about RCGP, what it did, and maybe some people would disagree with me. I think RCDGP did a good job of letting, so we found out that we have professionals, but not in a professional, they're not being used in a professional way. I would say in the 6 years since RCGP happened and they kind of focus on the drama and all that stuff, obviously people, idiots like me, focus on the drama as well. Now it's more accepted, right? These drivers are allowed to express themselves a little bit more. You heard Mayfield say, "We should have people with microphones right in our face as soon as we come off the driver's center." I was like, "Okay, I'll be there. I will be there."
Well,
And
that yeah, no,
go ahead.
the raw emotion and the drama is what puts people in seats.
Absolutely. And
Eyeballs on the TV. Yeah, you bet.
we don't need, okay, getting spectators at the actual event would be great, but it has to be an event catered to that. And it has to have not an RD just calling out lap times. You have to cater to the,
Yeah, it has to
oh,
have a real life MC to
yes.
make it entertaining.
If you ever get a chance, go look up 2008 Manufacturers Cup. And Ryan McCleary and a bunch of guys, Scotty was the RD, and they actually had another MC, and they had about 3,000 people in the stands
Right.
watching this. And they treated it big. They went on like radio station, gave away tickets. They obviously weren't charging for tickets. They got local companies to be involved. Like I think Mayfield won a motocross bike. And then like if you won sportsman, you got a sponsorship from Losi at the time. There you go. There's your
My Losi sponsorship.
your
Sorry, I'm
your
plugging in my phone.
Oh, okay, no problem. You don't want that discharging. But it's really cool. And but the problem is it was no real ROI on that at that time. But f I would like, we need to do something like, but I would say that in the last 5 or 6 years, I've seen things be more accepted. For instance, when we were doing the RC1 race at the INSJ Concepts race, right? So I was set up perfectly. So as soon as they came off the
Yeah.
driver's stand, I was able to catch that raw emotion.
No,
And
I
when
watched it.
everybody
It
was,
was great.
yeah, Aiden went into his rage, right? His half laugh and half rage. Man, Harley Swanka and Rona were right there just laughing because they were like, and then Rona goes, "There's your moment, right? There's your moment." But that wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. That would not have happened 5 years ago. That would have been like, "No, we got to erase that. We can't do that." But you have to show that, like, and people who would say, "Well, RC is a family sport, and we're doing this." I agree with that too. But your kids are going to encounter this type of stuff in real life, and passion, and it irks me because people are like, "It's just toy cars." Oh no, oh no. It's just toy cars when you lose. When you win, this is some uber scale modified, I can do this and do that. It's scale motorsports then. So I don't know. I truly think that RC will have its 15 minutes of fame. I truly do. And I knew like RCGP's goal was to get like a Monster, was to get a Red Bull or something. And in order for us to do what you say, which is like focus on the pros and do that, we need to have that because it has to be, people were like, "Well, the manufacturers have to back it." But the manufacturers are scared because they don't want to lose from their base. They're already putting money into the coverage that we have. They're putting money into the race that we're at. And of course, you got a bunch of people there that are running their products that are mostly on a discount. So they're already coming out of pocket quite a lot
Sure.
to be at these events. But if we can
Well,
get a Monster to put $250,000, imagine now you want a series, a worldwide series, give them $100,000 purse. They'll be
well,
there.
so Wally and I have talked about this. Um, anyway, before I get into that part, you can do both. So you could still run your normal race, but from 5 to 9 on Saturday, you run just your pro qualifying or something. I mean, guys are going to have to. It's going to be different because you're going to
Mhm.
run the program's going to be shorter. They'll have some practice during the day to set their cars up, but the program in the evening is going to be rushed. So this an hour or 2 hours between to do diffs and shocks and stuff is not going to be the case because you're going to not have that kind of time. It's going to be like Supercross. You can do quick rebuild stuff, and but you could do your amateur stuff on Friday, Saturday during the day and finish that stuff on Sunday and have that Saturday evening your top pro show.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But we need to. This is where we got into this subject with Ryan Styles Harris. Is there's just no to do that. We need more people to in the production side of things and organization side of things, or the regular Joe racers, the sportsman guys and intermediate guys, their coverage has to probably drop down a level. Maybe they got a static cam and the RD, while that group of people go because there's only one or two. It's only like for instance, in our team, Elite, Danny, he's the editor. He does all that stuff.
Sure.
He's the graphics guy. So he's the video guy. So it would be like, all right, me and Danny go out and do this. Then he has time where he can edit all that stuff up, which is going to take a few hours. And then maybe we get back to doing that type of stuff. But the issue is, and it's not an issue because I thoroughly enjoy when the regular racers come up to me because those are the backmen, those are the people spending the money at these races, right? And spending the money to keep this afloat. So it's important to me as well. This is the argument JQ and I had, and he doesn't understand this part. But as long as these streams are pretty much crowdfunded, which they are kind of to an extent that we do, especially like Mod does a lot of them, when we do these online ticket sales and all that stuff, that stuff is subsidizing this.
Sure.
But so that's where the importance comes in. And not only that, man, I go to races and people's like come up to me like, Lefty, my goal this weekend is to get an interview with you because they know only winners get interviews. And maybe if you battle, you got a good interview. So that's special. So either we take away from that a little bit, which sucks because I don't want to do that, or we have to get that influx of money in to hire extra people, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
while
that
Danny,
would be the answer. Yeah.
yeah, that's where the sponsorship would come in handy,
Yeah.
right? But I really think it's going to happen, dude. I really think it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's cool. Like I mean, I've for the last couple of years, I've been bringing people to the races to be a part. Like this DNC, I brought a veteran out, and because he wanted to come and check it out, and um, he'd been on some of my other events. I'm like, yeah, come out. He's like, man, I just started taking pictures. I'll bring my camera. I'm like, awesome. Anyway, he comes out. He's like, bro, I had no idea this even existed. And now his whole family, his kids, he's connected with his kids. He's taking them racing. Like it's a whole new thing that they can do together. It's such a cool sport standalone, but it's so family oriented. It's
yes,
man,
yes.
yeah. It's definitely a marketable product. Just has to be packaged properly.
Yeah, and we
I
have
mean,
to have characters, right? We have to have personalities and characters. I remember a guy told me one time, he goes, "You want RC to grow? Treat it like wrestling." And I
make
was
it a
like, "What?"
show. Yeah.
And that's why you see me, like, I may not be the best commentator of a race, but in my crazy little brain, this man's nickname, this person's nickname, this race happened here. Like, those storylines come into play. That's probably why I work better on my own than with two people because I have all this stuff in my brain, right? But that's the type that to me, that's the type of stuff that's gonna grow these things. That's why I give these guys nicknames and because like, come on, like how many motorsports or regular. So yeah, and all these other regular sports, other sports and motorsports, we have personalities, and it's starting. It's starting. We're adapting these personalities. These guys are starting to be able to feel free to talk how they want. And I tell you, 5, 6 years ago, it was not like this because everything was kind of like it's got to be my car. It's got to be dialed, and this is great, and everything was good. And now the manufacturers are kind of allowing these guys to form their personalities, which I think is great because it's very important for the growth of what we want to do here. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to have its 15 minutes of fame. I think it's going to take people like you too, who have these connections to, like you said, the guy who helped you get into the X Games didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, actually, I introduced Joe and Joey, and I was like, yeah, how do we do a series across the country?
It's hard. It's hard.
So that it shouldn't be.
I know.
It shouldn't
But
be. It shouldn't be that difficult. Like it, you're not you wouldn't really have to take away from anything that's going on.
I would use. I like the virtual series is funny because I just had this chat with Jason Run about the INS. The issue is, I think that in the USA, so when you go to Europe, RC is pretty much in the same associations and federations. Each country has its own federation, and like they have banquets and stuff for everything at the end of the year. And RC guys are there getting awards for exemplary stuff. Like Max has gotten one, Pecco has gotten one, right? So they get right up there with guys like Kimi Räikkönen and all these guys who are sports stars and whatnot, F1 stars. They're in the same banquet. And when you go to Europe, they also have a series as well. Each country has a national series that gets them to the worlds. The issue is in the USA, and I said this with Ron, and he agreed with me. He was talking about INS, is that the America is so used to the one-off races that these guys, the pros need to promote the points more as well, right? They need to take it a little bit more serious. But when you don't have that, it doesn't it's hard too, right? So it's a lot of things that have to be fixed and have to go into it. I would love to see a series. I would love to see a proper series where these guys take it seriously and they have. I think you lost your earbuds.
I did. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. No worries.
Okay, good.
I think that it's a mentality shift that has to happen as well. These guys aren't used to it. Like these European guys, they go to their national races, especially on a world's qualifying year, because they know they have to be there at least to compete. So they go, and it's important to them. And in the USA, we just don't have that anymore. I've never really had it.
Yeah, no, the cool thing about it is that the infrastructure is already there. The races are already there. Just have to figure out how to put it all together.
I agree. We also have to get the promoters on board that are doing. I think we can. I've done it a few virtual series. Well, we have to get the promoters on board, and we have to get the drivers on board as well. And if the drivers can promote it, then people get excited about it. So it's something. It's a mentality shift, and it's something we're working on. I didn't do it this year, but because it took up a lot of time. But it also has to be some ROI on it, right? To put some focus on it because you're focused on so many different things. I know people like it always comes down to ROI. Well, because it's a business, right?
Yeah.
And time is money. So that's how it comes
Yeah,
down
I mean you put a virtual point series together and you do a few waffles and raise 10 or 15 grand. I guarantee the pros will pay attention.
if you offer some prize money. That's what I told Ron. I said, yeah, put up a 10K purse and let's see what happens.
Yep.
But we have to get that $10,000, right?
Yeah.
And do. Hey, Paul, I think this was a great chat. I am going to leave links for the Winter Project because that was a great documentary. Well done. I really enjoyed it. I watched a little bit and then I watched the rest of it last night. And it was really cool because I got to see where you come from and all that type of stuff. And I think people that don't know what we're talking about, maybe that would help them. I'm glad we have people like you in RC because it's going to be people like you who have those connections, who are passionate about RC, that are going to probably it's going to happen like that. When it happens, it's going to be like that. So and keep on racing, man. I hope to see you at some of these races.
I managed to get in on AMS before the I got my 3 classes. Yeah.
That race sold out in like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Well, I was driving while I was signing up and it kept freezing again. I'm like, son of a bitch.
You know what's so funny about that race is that there was so much when Dave, like Dave, Lance, and even JQ worked to make it a capped race and do that. And I remember the first year he did it, man, people were like, what? They couldn't fathom it not, okay, it's $150. And I'm like, yeah, but you get so much more runtime.
Oh my
You get,
gosh.
you it's so much runtime. And it's like you can kind of schedule yourself around it. It's fair. Like everybody gets the same amount of practice, same amount of qualifying. You got a 10-minute, everybody gets at least a 10-minute race. And I'm glad to see that it is selling out because he took a big risk in doing that. He didn't have to do that. He could have just kept to his regular schedule. And I'm glad he did. I'm not saying every race has to be like that. Huh?
2 minutes. That's nuts.
That was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Poor RC sign up Bobby. He's a friend of ours. He was stressed out. He was stressed
I
out.
imagine.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll get to see you there, dude.
Right on.
Cool. And thank you for your time and all that you do. You have a very inspirational story. I enjoy talking to you, and I hope people get inspired by this story as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's I I literally live and breathe RC. So I'm a fan of the pod for sure. When
Thank
I'm
you.
rebuilding cars or cleaning cars, I always have you guys fired up. So
And get that little boy racing. He's the only way. He's got I saw him with his gravedigger.
yeah. And make sure that Pecco's got that parrot on his car now.
He has a sticker. He has
Okay.
a sticker. That goes good. I think he's very good on the
No,
podcast.
it's impressive. He's
He's a good driver too,
He's a really good driver.
Over multiple disciplines. He's very good.
He's got a bright future for sure. No, I enjoy when the three of you guys are on, it's always fun to listen to the three very, very different personalities geeking out. It's good.
Yeah, I'm pure emotions and they're just pure finish.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
thank you for your time. It looks like a beautiful day there in Alaska. Enjoy the rest of your day. And shout out to all the Alaskan racers out there. I know Dennis and Donald. So
yeah, good guys.
yeah, good stuff, man. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Techno RC. Techno RC is a championship-winning manufacturer of high-performance A-scale, 10-scale, nitro, and electric RC buggies and trucks. With a worldwide dealer network, USA and Europe-based headquarters, comprehensive warranty program, and global race support, Techno RC is excellence in RC. View the full lineup of Techno RC race-proven vehicles by visiting www.technorc.com.
Are you looking to take your ride-on car to the next level? ML Toys makes it easy with plug-and-play modifications like motors, speed and brake controls, and more. ML Toys is the one-stop shop to make your ride-on car the coolest car in the neighborhood.
Alrighty then, that brings the end to another great interview. Paul, thank you for your time, and it was a great chat with you, man. I look forward to seeing at the races. Good luck in all your racing and what you have plans. And he has some plans too that we've been talking about on his side. He sees the big picture, and that's what I like as well. Thank you for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, RC is for everybody, and I think one of the coolest moments I saw was I was at a race, I think it was AMS 2025, and there were three. Was Paul, it was Jonathan Bunton, and there was another gentleman in a wheelchair. And at one point, if I'm not mistaken, all three were racing each other up on the driver's seat, or at least two were. So that was awesome. RC is for everybody. Thank you all for the continued support. We can't do this without you guys, the NNRC squad. If you ain't following us on Facebook, Instagram, please do. Remember, we're running these subs up. 10K is the goal as soon as possible, and then we go farther than that. If you can get more than 10K this year, that's great. Hit that sub like notification button. Check out. We have a lot of content, and we're also kind of in the middle of organizing our YouTube, so you're gonna see things getting a lot more neat and clean and stuff like that. Check out some Lefties RC Life. Check out Max Tangents. Check out some of our coverage from races that we've been to previously. And of course, we have a plethora of our live shows that we do generally every week. If I'm not traveling, we do those Mondays, Coffee and RC. And yeah, we're ripping grass and trying to kick ass here at the NNRC and 2026. Big shout out to the patrons and YouTube members of the show. We greatly appreciate your support. If you wish to support the podcast, you can. Links for that in the written description. you have early access to this. And big shout out to these companies that support the podcast and think this is a great place to advertise. They are J Concepts, High Tech RC, Sidewinder Fuels, Beach RC, Invisible Speed, Techno RC, Clinic RC, ML Toys, Elite RC Productions, One Up Racing, Mayako, A Main Hobbies, SMC Batteries, Racecraft USA, and Get Shiz Done Coffee. Nitro's the glory. E-Buggy pays the bills. Lefty is out. See you guys at the races. Be a great RC ambassador. Let's grow RC together. Have a good weekend, everybody. Ta-ta for now.